I thought it was in an innocent place, but apparently not.
Show off.
That's what I was just thinking.
And that works really well.
So
I tried it, it wouldn't work very well.
this is the cup. I got that centered on there. For trimming, if you have trouble centering your piece, one of the things that works really well is to, I think I said this, I'm not sure, to make little landmarks, right? And then as you hold your finger real steady, you can kind of watch where it touches your finger and say, okay, it happened in that quadrant. That way you don't have to try and stop the wheel right where it touches. You can let it go past, and then just remember that quadrant. Can be helpful. So yes, this part, set it up. Got my trimming tool.
You're so clean.
Get the schmutz off of it. And then I found out that just a little divot, I think I've said this too before, is a nice place for you to push down and hold that thing in place. Since I've started doing it, I really find it helpful. Because I can be a little more aggressive with my trimming if I'm pushing down in that spot. And I used to just sort of put my finger on there, but it would sort of float around. This really helps.
Now, is that just leather hard?
Yep. Yeah, stiffish leather hard. I would have liked to have done this a little bit softer, but I'm not here 8 hours a day. So that's, I mean, the beauty of my job is that I'm there all day. You know, the students really struggle with it. I know you guys do too. Catching it at the right time, you know, it's tough.
Did you cover those last week?
Yep, covered them really well. Made sure to tuck the plastic underneath, and then I had multiple pieces in there. Had this and this just been in there alone, it probably would have dried out too much, and I would have put a damp sponge in there as a little humidifier. And so trim, and then you can come back with the rib if you like to smooth it back down. Hold that rib at a 90-degree angle to the surface so it scrapes the clay off. The flatter you hold it, the more it just sort of smooths. Once I get it close to what I want, then I'll lay it down flat. Try to smooth it out.
Are you taking much clay off?
No,
Okay.
no, just trying to get it, remove those ridges so that there's no real transition between trimmed and untrimmed. So,
You need a needle tool?
or a toothed rib.
There's one in my.
Yep, perfect. Beautiful. If you don't have one of these, you should get one. They're great for scoring. So, judge that size. Scored.
I cut one of those up so I can get it down into the
Oh, nice. So it's just like pieces.
Yes.
Yeah.
good three pieces.
Nice. both of those scored up. Now, ideally, my joining slip would be the same clay body, but I'm not afforded such luxury here. So we'll just go for it this way.
It's a rough life, isn't
Well,
it?
Isn't it though? Yeah.
Yeah, I could have taken some of this clay and like spent a lot more time mixing.
Then you would have been.
May have been worth it. I mean, the only thing that this does is it might show up if I were to use a lighter colored glaze or a clear glaze. You might see a color shift in the clay there.
But you like color.
Well, it depends. So, just kind of float that thing on top to begin with. Get it close. And then just sort of make sure it's sitting in the center. Seems close enough for who it's for. And then I'll stop, push down, and kind of wiggle. And that wiggle really marries the two together. And then maybe double check, sort of recenter. Pretty close. This is one of the few times that I'll actually remove the slip or the ooze that comes out. Normally I leave it until it becomes leather hard and then I'll remove it, because in this situation that slip is going to sort of shrink and sort of suck up inside of there, and that it'll reveal that seam. And so if you're trying to hide the seam, well, definitely leave the slip until it's leather hard and then remove it. And here that seam isn't going to go anywhere. I'm not trying to hide it, so I don't mind removing the slip right away. And then just as a final marriage between the two, I'll push down on that edge. And here's where I wish I would have caught it a little sooner, because if this was softer, I could really get the two to smash together real well. Here I might not get quite the connection that I would want, but I'm sure it'll be fine. And then just sort of hold for a second to make sure that's centered. And then with the trimming tool, and this is the dicey part, here's where you should really let the two, you can see how it grabs. You should let these two get leather hard, or wait a day for that connection to stiffen up, and then come back and trim the foot.
You got the least stability.
Right. And so, I've always done it right away because I've never been patient enough to wait. And it does work mostly. It's one of those things where, when you're doing 50 of them, yeah, it's nice if they're done. You take them off. You don't have to put them back on. So, definitely trying to be very light, and definitely putting a little bit of pressure over here as a counterbalance. In case it does grab, my hand over here will keep it from jumping too much. It's really only a problem until it becomes symmetrical.
Yeah, Chad, you got a bit of a wobble, but you don't seem to be doing
Now, once it stops moving, you're not going to see it.
it. This is true.
Things that don't have a wobble are sort of dead anyway, I think. That's why I don't slip cast. Those things are so perfect, they don't have any life to them. There's no soul in there.
So they say.
That's the way I feel. I tried slip casting, and it's fine for certain things, but aesthetically, I don't care for it. So, there you go.
So can we see it right
This-
side up?
Yep. I'll take it off. This one would have been the other choice, right? And I would have cut some of this top off so that floor wouldn't have been there, because joining, this thickness to that thickness becomes a double thickness, and then that's maybe too much. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Heat it up too fast. Yeah. Thank you.
Sweet.
Very nice. Now I know what I'm getting for Christmas.
It holds a lot of
I made this bottle last week too. This is still fairly soft. This is what kept that stuff from drying out too much.
The moisture in that?
Yep. And I just wanted to finish this. I flatten it a little bit more now that it's leather hard. And just give it a little bit at the foot. So it's not quite so round.
Cool.
And then I've got some clay here. We've got time. My idea over here was to say, what do you want to see? What are you struggling with? What are you interested in? What?
It's just a quarter inch down.
A quarter.
Yeah, just see a 30-pound ball.
Great, giant bowl. I don't have quite that much clay.
And then you just
I did make a bowl today at work that
turn
was
it into a pencil.
maybe 24 inches. But that's, I don't know, I don't weigh my clay. I don't.
Do you have an estimate? 10 pounds?
Maybe 10 pounds.
Full block?
No, I don't have, it's all pugged clay. Homemade clay. So it doesn't come in blocks exactly. Probably about 10, maybe 15 pounds.
Okay.
15 pounds probably.
Chad, is this a 3/8 stone?
Probably. I bought
No, that's
the
more
whole
like
array.
A half inch or 5/8.
5/8?
Half inch or 5/8.
Half inch probably.
Half inch.
Yeah, half inch.
Not 3/8, guaranteed.
I was thinking.
You gonna forget all that stuff once you retire?
Hell no.
Hell no. Herb here is retiring. Tell us again.
14 days.
14 days.
Sorry, Andy.
Whenever you throw it, Teresa.
Okay. Get on.
Anything? Requests? Everything's going smooth and steady for everybody. Well, all right.
Mug, it's all,
Something very
Like a
tall
stein.
yeah.
Dealing with tall.
with a cold hand. With a cold hand.
So tall.
She wants it
There's a
round.
couple of. I'm sorry. What?
She wants something almost round. I think that's a
Ah,
hard
next.
shape to
Can you,
do.
can you do a flat form that's shorter and wider?
Tall, flat, short.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't do chip and dip bowls. Sorry. This is why you're asking, isn't it?
It's like a bowl with another bowl attached.
Chip and dip. Tall and skinny. That's the goal here. So get that base down nice and narrow. There's a couple of tricks to going tall.
And they are.
I'm not going to tell you.
Got little hands.
Go slow.
Little hands helps. This is not something I'm blessed with. So I have to sort of cheat. And to cheat, I just make sure that my outside hand is not open, not allowing the clay to come open as much. But one of the other things that will really help you is you get that cylinder going. And then really collar it. So start at the bottom, squeeze that in, start pulling it. You have to leave it kind of thin to do that, or kind of thicker to do that. But you can really get a little more height out of it that way. And then when you come back to rethrow,
It's short because it's short.
it shortens, but it also is thinner than it would normally be. And that's that thinness. It's fine.
Yeah, I do too. I end up with it.
Well, there's a point where it wobbles too much and it wants to start to fold. And watching it to make sure it's not going to do that is and if it starts to really fold, you have to stop and kind of push it back down a little bit.
So now that it's twisted, how do you get that?
That's where I'm going next. Yeah, George Orr was really into that stuff. So now it becomes about using the rib.
Are you pushing?
Does it matter if you got a wooden one? Does it matter if it's
The wooden one works better. Yeah,
metal?
'cause you need that rigidity, that stillness to get that wobble to come out. So yeah, pushing from the inside up to the rib, making sure you're directly across from the rib. I don't prefer to work this thin, but I definitely know potters that insist on it. Jake, the snake, Olanger, Ollinger, I should say. He loves really, really thin pots.
I think that's
I like a thin mug, but for vases and stuff, I'm really not that concerned with weight. And I kind of prefer that it has a little more weight, especially at the bottom. You don't want it to tip over, right?
Yes.
So your hands are pretty wet when you're doing that, right? The one on the
On
inside?
the inside, yes.
Okay.
Fold it over.
Meant to do
A
that.
little too thin. There. that leather hard, maybe I'll squeeze it a little more. It's gonna keep. Yeah, I want it to a little bit.
There we go. This is good. One's gonna drip, drip, drip. Other side is- That's definitely dipping.
Then you know it's going to
Take that.
So thin, so soft. What were some of the other ones?
Perfectly round.
Perfectly round. God, it's impossible.
I have short fingers.
And tell me again why you make the volcano?
To just move some of that clay up before I start throwing. Because after you open that well, it's such a low, squat donut that I find it difficult to get it going up. And so going back to that centering position and moving my hand up centers it again and then sort of gets the motion happening. And I've tried to do more like that and it goes bad. It only works like 1 or 2 times to bring it up in that position. And so here, bulbous, I think the thing to do is to, as you're throwing, start teasing it into shape.
So when you're using your knuckle like that, where are you in contact with the clay? Like how much of the knuckle?
Using the side
so
right in
the
there.
hole, like right
Yeah.
through. Okay.
But I also stick my thumb out and kind of let my thumb ride in front of it.
Okay.
And I'm not, it seems to make things more stable. Just with the knuckles
So it's
seems
this
a little
one, this
awkward.
one right
Yeah.
Bless you. Excuse me.
I'm pushing that clay up over my knuckle from the inside.
You're really kind of hard.
Yeah, that top motion, I'm definitely pushing in and letting, you know, like,
But with the thumb, I mean. With
oh, the thumb.
Yeah, with the
Yeah,
thumb.
it's controlling the width.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does help keep it, because that's sort of what it's doing now. But I think it's more than that, too.
But you're not always using it, right?
No.
That's not always your technique.
No, not at all. I'll
So your
switch back
thumb
to
is
the
in
fingertip.
contact with the clay as well? I can't see from over.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
What was the question?
The thumb is in contact with the clay as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
Kind of.
it's almost sitting right at 6 o'clock
Okay.
in front of me.
Okay.
As well as the sponge, so, just
Yeah,
because
the
that's where it
sponge is
ended
there.
up.
I think part of what my thumb is doing is telling my knuckle what's coming,
Oh, okay.
right? Because there's no sensitivity to that.
Right.
It's really
Like, yeah.
there's nothing there, and that's why your fingertips work really well when it's thin enough because you can really feel what's happening. And I think that my thumb is really just sort of telling the knuckle what to expect
Okay.
in a way, and keeping the clay in a little bit. Yeah. And so now I've got this down here. I've got a bit of a skirt flaring out, but on the inside it definitely is coming to a more of a bowl shape. And so this is just holding clay, keeping everything up. And it's definitely thick down there. I'm leaving it thick because as this flares out, it's going to need it. Now at this point we'll start bringing that top in. Rethrow that just a little bit.
What do you mean?
Sometimes it helps. Now I think it would make sense to throw against a rib because the rib will help you compress the clay a little bit and it won't want to flop on you as easy. Sort of making the clay more plastic by pushing on it from the outside as well. And then once you get that belly way out there, you have to be real careful when you're collaring, and it even helps to kind of come down below the shoulder to collar because you are pushing down on it a little bit.
You're waiting for
And that happens.
It's like,
Go away, don't panic.
it's like it goes into an oval.
Don't panic.
Yep,
Is that what happened? Is it,
Yep.
is the shoulder, isn't?
I just went too thin with it. You gotta leave more meat. And so now it would be beneficial to have that heat gun
You want to borrow mine?
in
You mean the one
I have
that's sitting on my my shelf? Do you want it?
Yeah. No, because when that happens, you just kind of got to go back.
It's like the lip, I almost feel like the lip isn't stretched enough. It's actually,
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it gets weird. And once it's thin, it doesn't want to. It doesn't want to go back, and so it's really difficult. Mary, Carrie bought some clay and needs $2 change.
So you're thickening up the top part, right? How are you doing that?
Well, it was just a matter, I brought the sides in a little bit so I could push more on the top. And then, you know, just by the act of collaring it in, it gets thicker on itself. It's still pretty thin, it's just, you know, teased it into place, sort of right on that edge. You can see it go oval, but, you know, if I would have pushed a little bit more, yeah, it would have collapsed. So I think it's just sort of, you know, practice of knowing when to stop and knowing how much pressure you can put on. And then, like when I do bottles that are real bulbous like this, I get this form and then I add a neck instead of trying. Yeah, because the weight of a neck is too much for that high shoulder. You got to keep that shoulder much more flat to get a neck, and I don't like that shape. So I'll do this and then throw the top, let it be leather hard, put them together. Yeah.
Sorry about the change. I was going to say.
And I know people that make these forms have really intricate tools that have it's kind of like a stick with that comes down and then curves, has a little cutout and it curves around and then it comes way out here into like a little ball. And so you can kind of weasel it down in there and then lift up on that shoulder to get that nice curve up on the top of the shoulder. If you ever look at Feng Chu's teapots, they're tiny little things, you know, but they have that really bulbous high shoulder, and that's how he does it with a little stick that has that curves and has a little ball on the end of it. He pieces it in there and lifts up on it. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. The people that get really thin porcelain pieces have that pivoting top, and then they use another rib on the outside and marry them up. And it's about that compression of the clay that makes it hold its position, especially with porcelain. I've never minded cheating. That's nice, and see, like there's in this zone I'd like to push it out a little bit more, but without one of those fancy sticks it's tough. Do you have one? And there's other ways to get to getting there. One of them is to keep sort of pushing down on the top, dropping the height.
There it is.
Oh yeah.
I've always poked holes in things with it, and they go plunk.
Where'd you make it?
No, I ordered it. I don't remember where from.
It's a mud
My
tools.
problem is I pushed too hard, and I.
Yeah.
As I say, between all of us here, I think we have every tool out.
Probably.
So now we can. And you just gotta look for that. Where's the bulge? There it is. It helped a little. Started off much worse.
That's mud tools.
What's
But most places.
Mud tools manufactured, yeah.
In most places that sell stuff online sell mud tools.
Yeah. Bailey for sure. I think Big Ceramic Store does.
I
Accident
think Bailey's
does.
probably where I got it.
Yeah.
A lot of them have mud tools.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So, how does it look from there, Sarah? Yeah. It's hard to tell from here.
It looks like the whole top is smaller than the base.
Looks like what?
The whole top is smaller than the base, which is awesome. I mean,
Well, I've definitely got a lot of holding clay down here that the base on the inside is really only about the same width as the top, and after trimming it would be real close. Bound and determined to kill it.
Here, let me give you a hand with that.
I'll trim it for you.
It would be really cool to poke holes in and make a Japanese lantern out of it. Half a dozen of those on the bed. Of course,
No, it definitely flattened a little bit, didn't it?
It's sitting down.
Yep. That's a lot of weight. It's really soft clay too.
Oh, yeah, when we took that, when we trimmed that off, it sat down.
Yep.
Getting worse, there
She's got a saggy butt.
You did it! All right, thank you.
A lesson in centrifugal force.
Thank you, Chad.
Well, then you wedge it back up and
If you wanted that, all I had to do was sit down.
Oh, that's okay. Oh, that's all right.